Don't do game development. Don't even do programming. You're gonna fail and it's not worth teaching you. You won't get it. These are all words that were said to me. Maybe you've heard them too. I could have chosen to listen to these words, and in a way I did, but I used it as fuel instead. Up until age 20, I was a competitive figure skater representing Australia internationally. This was a time of my life that I often look back on. It had such a positive influence on the person I am today, with one of the biggest impacts being my drive to succeed against all odds, not letting anyone tell me that I wasn't good enough. In 2019, I hung up the skates and started studying game development at university, and for the first year that I did it, I was lost. I wasn't sure if it's what I wanted to do, and I wasn't really doing well. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but I knew I wasn't good at it, and it had me questioning if I should continue. In 2020, I took a class on data structures and algorithms, a notoriously difficult subject. Up until this point of learning, I felt like I knew nothing, and it felt like everyone around me knew everything. For loops made no sense, functions made no sense, variables made no sense. It just wasn't clicking. We had an assignment for this class to use Dijkstra's algorithm to calculate distance between nodes. I asked everyone I could for help. I was emailing tutors, reaching out to people I knew were in the class, messaging people I knew who had done the class. And a lot of people gave me their time. A lot of people tried to help me. But it was a lot to take in, and it just wasn't sticking. It wasn't until someone said to me, "Don't even bother, you're just not gonna get it." I was brought back to being a teenager and the time that I was figure skating, feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling like the effort that I'm putting in isn't matching the results that I'm getting out. When these words were said to me, I knew I had a point to prove. I wanted to prove to him that I could do this, I wanted to prove to other people that I could do this, but above all, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do this. So I studied, and I spent time understanding. I looked at code examples and started to break it down. Why does this loop create this result? Why do we need to make this public? Why do we need to write it like this? And I did that for months. It didn't click immediately, but it began to make sense, and I began to experiment. Using code that I already had, I started to change values around to see what would be different. Then it started to make sense why things would be different. The first time I remember reconstructing a concept was later on in that year, during a subject that taught Unreal Engine and C++. During the weekly labs, we had created a very basic state machine for an AI that we were making, and our first assignment was to expand on it. I looked over the code for hours, just breaking down how the states interacted with each other, how the code was calling the different functions, and when and why it was calling them. What I came up with was a way for the AI to run away if its health was too low, and find a position on the map that was far from the player so that it could stand still and regain its health. Now the code was so far from good, but it was my own, and I was so happy that I got the concept to work. For this assignment, I got 19 out of 20. The highest mark for the subject was 19.5, and I remember feeling my first taste of success. From nearly failing data structures and algorithms the semester before to getting the second highest grade in the subject, my confidence in myself began to grow. It really made me believe that I can do this and that I should do this. Fast forward 4 years, I'm now working in game development professionally at Tin Man Games and running a tech channel on YouTube, creating programming tutorials publicly. I've also just released a game, Neon Squad Tactics, on the Oculus Quest with my team at Tin Man Games. The things I'm doing today, I could have only dreamt about back then. So, where am I going with this? One of the most common phrases I hear from people is, "I wish I was good at maths so I could code," or "I just don't have the brain for programming," something along those lines. And maybe you've heard something similar too, or maybe you think something similar. The reason I make these videos, the reason that I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I lived that.
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
There was a time where I didn't think that I had the brain for this, and I didn't think that I was good enough or smart enough. Yet here I am, living proof. And because of that, because I experienced the absolute lowest points in this industry and the biggest self-doubts you can imagine, I know that anyone can do this. And I want to inspire people to challenge themselves to achieve what they want. And I know for some people it's going to be particularly difficult, especially if there's people in your cohort who are on a whole different level. Everyone's on their own journey, and maybe their journey started years before yours. You should never compare yourself to anyone else. Comparison is the thief of joy. I had this exact situation, and once I stopped comparing myself to them and used them instead as a benchmark of where I wanted to get to, I began to progress in my own journey. I know this is a bit of a different video, but I wanted to address this topic and to reassure some of you, whether you're just starting game development or programming, or you're beginning to doubt yourself, that you can do this. You will always get out what you put in. If there's something that you want to do in any field, then I want you to know you're not too dumb for it. There isn't such thing as you're not wired for it. If you want to do something, then prove to yourself that you can. Have that drive and continue that drive. Always remember why you're doing it. Like I said, I make these tutorials and I make them in a way that I as a learner would benefit from. I look at other tutorials online and find where they maybe go over a concept that's too advanced or skim over something that I think deserves more explanation, and I want to be that gap. Let me know in the comments if there's a topic that you guys want me to cover. It can be something as basic as class setups, static variables, method calls, or more advanced concepts. I want to be able to help you guys and give you the confidence to build your own skills. Thanks for watching, and if you want to support this channel and what I do, then interacting with the magic YouTube buttons will be the best way to push my content out to a wider audience. I hope to catch you guys in the next video soon. Take care.